How you doing today? This is Zach Allen, and we are going to share a great tip about how to use your hands correctly. And yes, I said your hands, right? Because everybody thinks that the hands are bad in golf. I'm using my hands too much from the top. I'm flipping my wrist at the ball. My hands are rolling the face. But believe it or not, we want well-educated, smart hands, and it's going to really help your golf game. So before we get started though, if you want, I have something you could sign up for down below. It's a 3-part mini clinic that'll get you more consistent. It's totally free of charge. Just click the link down in the description. So before we get started with the actual tip, I want to show you a short video of Tiger Woods talking about how much he relies and depends on his hands. Okay? I know when we watch him swing, we see his body moving powerfully, but the hands are really important in helping him control that golf club. So let's take a look.
I've always played a lot with my hands, so I control a lot of my speed and what I do with my hand speed. I've never been one that really focuses on what my body's doing, my controlling trajectory and controlling shots. A lot of that has been my hands. Granted, my swing has morphed. I've done different things with different instructors, but at the end of the day, it's about, to me, making the little adjustments right before impact to try and figure out where that club is at and sensing where it's at, because at the end of the day, that's the only connection we have with a golf club is our hands.
So that was fantastic, right? Him talking about how much he depends and relies on those hands. So let's look exactly at what the hands are doing. Okay, and I've got a couple things to help us. I've got our trusty Watson golf hanger here, and I've also got HackMotion running behind me that's going to show us just live in detail what exactly is going on. So if you take a look here at first, if you look at the green hanger here, when I hinge my wrist or I unhinge my wrist, right? You notice the blue number up in the top right-hand corner there changing. That's me going from radial to ulnar deviation. That's a large power source, okay? Think of like hammering a nail or a stake into the ground and how much force we can generate from that. But we need to do it in the right way, okay? The next one is this green box. That's flexion and extension. And that one's really important. You notice with the hanger here, when I go into flexion or a bowed wrist position, the hanger touches my lead arm. When I go into extension, it touches my trail arm. And what's happening here, whether you see it or not, the club face is more closed, the club face is more open. Okay, and you see how much those green numbers are changing. And the other thing to take note as I do all this, when I'm doing any movements, you see how one changes the other. So you can't hinge your wrist and not actually affect that flexion or extension number. Okay, so they're very dependent upon one another. So the last thing that our hands do, a little bit in the forearms also, is just pronation and supination. So those are the 3 major roles of the hands, right, and what they're doing in the golf swing. And what I tend to see people think and do a lot, especially if they're struggling with consistency, they always think that the best thing to do is to not use their hands at all. Like if they had a golf swing to where their hands never did anything, they would hit the ball straight every time, okay? And let me show you what that might possibly look like. Okay, that ball did go relatively straight, but I want you to take a look at the graph here. The green line is the flexion extension that I showed you. The blue line is the ulnar radial or the wrist hinge and unhinge. And then the purple is the pronation supination. You'll notice that especially in the green and blue lines, you see how flatline they are? That is not good, okay? That just means that my hands are very dead. So for a lot of you out here that are always trying to do this one-piece takeaway or move everything together coming through, that's not what the best golfers in the world are doing. That's kind of what Tiger's alluding to in terms of how much he relies and feels his hands to hit different shots. A great analogy is if you look at some of the best tennis players in the world, okay? Let's say if, a great player is hitting a backhand, they don't just keep the racket in the same position the entire time. Watch this slow motion footage here and you can see how much they're actually changing their wrist conditions to put more speed, to put more top spin, to put more velocity on their shots. But this is probably how I would play tennis, but that's not what the great players do. Okay, so when we do a swing here, and you'll see, I'm going to kind of tell you what my hands are feeling, right? If I do just a regular golf swing, I'm going to take like a half swing. So if somebody watched me hit that ball, you might say, boy, he really uses his body. He keeps it all together. He doesn't use his hands. My hands are actually quite active here, okay? They're active in hinging and then eventually unhinging on that blue line. They're active in pronating and supinating on that purple line. And they're actually very active in flexing and extending. You even notice this is the top of backswing position. This is the impact position. How much some of these lines are actually deviating and changing from their original position. So what's actually happening here is as I'm taking the golf club back, maybe the first foot, it is relatively calm and together. And at that point, I'm starting to hinge and set the club in my backswing. From this view, I'm also starting to shallow the club. And as that happens, I can feel the hanger pushing up against my lead arm. Okay? Just after that, I'm starting to release the golf club into impact. And now I'm starting to unhinge those wrists as I get down into striking the golf ball. Okay? And then just post-impact, now we're starting to get some re-hinging. So you can see there that the goal with your hands is not to just do nothing, right? You're going to have kind of a dead-handed, dead golf shot. We actually just want to use them correctly. So as you go out to the driving range, I want you to just explore in kind of some different things with your hands. Like let's say if your ball flight is too high, let's go ahead and focus on flexing that lead wrist a little bit more. Let's hit some small shots where you really feel your lead wrist going into this position, okay? If you take a look at your golf swing and there's not a lot of leverage because you're a little bit too one piece, let's go ahead and make some swings where you feel a nice hinge to that lead wrist. Notice on the hanger here, you can see my wrist is sliding up and down that green line as I'm getting that club more set on the way back. That's going to give me more club head speed. This is a 2-lever swing. This is a 1-lever swing. The only time we really do that is when we're chipping the ball, right, or putting. In the swing, we want to set this lever. We want to maintain that lever to some degree on the way down. And then we want to, with a lot of force and velocity, unhinge that lever as we continue to square that golf club up at the same time. So it's good to really know, man, my hands are doing a lot of stuff in a healthy, positive way. I'm lagging the club, I'm shallowing the club, I'm getting some shaft lean, I'm bowing my lead wrist. But when you do it correctly, just like the tennis player example that we saw, and just like what Tiger's looking at, you're going to feel very positive, active hands that hit great, straight golf shots. So next time you're out there, give that a shot, get those hands active in a good way, and see if it doesn't help you hit the golf ball much straighter. So, you notice this hanger, and I use this with a lot of students because it gives me great feedback on what my hands are doing and what their hands are doing on all those 3 parameters, right? The pronation, supination, the hinging and unhinging, and then the flexion and extension, okay? You get a lot more club head awareness through knowing what we're doing in this region. What I've done for you, if you guys are interested in purchasing this, you get 15% off with this discount code down below. So if it's something you're interested in, you can obviously do it without it, but if you think it's going to help get you there a little quicker, which I really believe it does, I would go ahead and purchase one, start hitting some balls and getting that feedback on why is my club face open? How do I square my club face? How do I hinge my wrist? How do I deliver this club consistently the same way? The hanger will really help you to do that.